I reference you a ton, and a quote, and it was a quote that I'll never forget. It. We were down in Lake Point. I guess it was our 11-year-old or 12-year-old season, and we were having a post-game meeting, and you said something to the players that changed my feelings on a lot of things, and it's something that it just resounded with me, and I use it all the time. And it's a quote that goes, "Life is fair. Everybody's price is just different," right? So, folks, you've all heard me say it. I got it from Hunter, all right? He said it that day to our kids, and I'll never forget it. So I want to start right there, all right, because I've taken a lot of heat, too. Not a lot of people like that, all right? So what's the story behind that?
So I think it probably stems from how I was raised. And I remember my dad would always say things like, "Oh, you didn't like that outcome? Do better. Be better. Oh, you want more out of life? Go to work." And as that built over time, and as you watch things play out, a lot of people want a lot of things, but they're not willing to give a lot to get those things. And everybody would want to be successful, or everybody would want to be able to do exactly what they want to do in life, and everybody can. It's just everybody has to give this or that. You know, my kind of the extension of that is, and I've said this to my family, you know, my children a lot lately. You don't actually know what that price is, so just give more. And I think that's what happens is we all choose a path. We have many choices on that path that lead us in different directions. But if I want to be an Olympic champion and I wasn't born with the gifts of that, then I have to do more. Like I have to wake up earlier. I was saying this to my son the other day. We're going to say this and talk about this, right, in youth sports a bit, is it's not like when you and I grew up.
Right.
We could put down the ball when we changed from one season to the next because all of our peers were. Right? Well, that's not the case anymore, right? You have aspiring people who are willing to be on the court or on the field 12 months out of the year, and whether that's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. And so my sons and I were talking the other morning, and I was like, "Hey, you all love to play basketball, but it's baseball season. And if you want to keep up with the kids, you want to make the team, you love to play, then we got to start getting up and going to the gym before we go to school. But I'm not going to force you to do that. You're going to have to set your alarm, and you're going to have to tell me every night before we go to bed, 'Hey, Pops, I want you to set your alarm because we want to go to the gym.'" Okay. If you'll do that, I'll wake up every morning earlier and I'll go. I'll take you. But that's your price. Right? You want to play on the varsity basketball team. You're at a really good school for basketball. Those young men are outstanding and they're playing AAU year round while you're going and playing against the best baseball players in the country. If you want to get on the court and play with them, you're going to have to do something different. Your price is higher.
Dude, it's we're just going to stay right there for a minute because that's going to lead to kind of like the growth in what you've been doing in your agency as well as with the Midland baseball organization. It's been incredible to watch, and I don't know if they know it, but there's how many teams in the organization, in the Midland organization now here in Nashville? 23 just in Nashville. What you're doing is impacting all the kids on all 23 teams 100%, right? So I don't know if they know that, but they do now because we just told them. So I had a clip recently that has been seen almost about 1 million times and growing quick, where I'm basically being interviewed in another interview, and I'm talking about how my wife and I support our son through his choices. Okay, so we invest anything and everything that we have into our kids for their development and their future success. However, if he says, "I want to be a Major League Baseball player, I want to play at Yankee Stadium," and then his choices actually tell a different story, I'm just like, "Hey, man, don't lie to yourself and lie to me. Be honest with yourself. Pick a path and then make choices to go that path, and we'll invest there. But I'm not, we're not going to invest into your development here when your choices are actually taking you that direction, right? So I was encouraged by a lot of the feedback we got on that, but also discouraged with a lot of folks that are just like, just let them be kids and let them go. Those choices, Coach Michael Burt said at one time on stage, and I loved it. He said, Olympic athletes don't eat Cheez-Its. They just don't. It's not they don't want to.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you just are a series of choices.
That's right.
Like we all are.
That's right.
Whatever that is, we've made the choice in the shoes that we're walking. We've made the choice in the seat that we're sitting. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard reality. Now, does stuff get thrown at you in life that you're like, man, I don't know why in the world that just happened in my life? Yes, there are outcomes and things that are putting obstacles and all of those things. Mm-hmm. But the obstacle is the way. That's a great book, right? But that's the truth, is that we get to get challenged in any number of ways, and the choices that we make will be what we get. And I just think I heard this, and this is, I don't know if I 100% agree or disagree, but the comment was, and it made me think, there are no lazy kids, just lazy parents.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, I don't know if I agree or disagree with that, but it did make me think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what my thought was, or what it stemmed from me, was what you're talking about with your children is, well, I want them to be their best self. I want them to go be awesome. Mm-hmm. Like whatever they want or are capable of, I want them to do it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you tell me you want to be a major league player, I believe you. Mm-hmm. I tell my kids that all the time. Like my two youngest, my daughter's cheering at Tennessee Tech, and she had an awesome experience not too long ago. They went to play Between the Hedges. They went and played Georgia. Oh, wow. And only 10 of them from the squad got to travel, and she was the only freshman that got chosen to do that. And that's an experience that she'll never forget. My oldest son's out writing music. I want them all to reach, but we have these conversations on a consistent basis, just like you are saying, is you can't tell me one thing and then do another. What you say doesn't really tell me anything. What you do tells me everything. And so for us, that's what we try to strive to do too, is to just say, hey, we're going to support you in anything. Yeah. And I know you have done this, like anyone that's volunteered in the youth sports has given up a lot. You give a lot. But I say this to my children a lot, like, I will always make choices for you first. Mm-hmm. Like I will give up my life for you. Mm-hmm. Like and I think that's what that comment that I heard is am I willing to make, when they tell me something, am I willing to also be right there with them in the support going through it? Mm-hmm. Or am I just like, go do whatever you want. I'll be living my life over here, and I'll always be making choices for me instead of making choices with you.
That's right. That's right. And one, we're not, like, making choices is a skill, because, what is it? More than 80% of the choices we make a day are subconsciously done, and we don't even realize we made that choice, So, and a lot of things are habit forming, and they're just patterns that if you can break patterns, you can break codes and everything. Even like, if you're in the same financial class as your parents and grandparents, so on and so forth, well, those are just generational patterns that have just been passed down to you, and you either accepted it or you changed it, right? So
100%.
I think that is, at the end of the day, what makes you great at everything that you do. Is I think there's just maybe more awareness about that. Or I used to say he's just a better thinker than most people, which that's probably true, but at the end of the day, you're aware of I think you're just aware of more choices that you're making in your actions throughout the day. I think that's what Arnold Schwarzenegger said. He said, everybody gets the same 24 hours. It's just what you do with that time, So
we were talking about this the other day at practice. We were saying, hey, everyone kind of spends the same time. Now, that's not always true, right? Maybe we'd practice for 3 hours and somebody else would practice for 2 hours and 45 minutes, or, just whatever. Yeah. But we were talking about the time spent And are you actually investing in that time, or are you going through the motions? Because our game, right, the game of baseball, and that's most of my life has been spent within the game, is not a game of, well, I do this drill and I'm better for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm consistently doing these things over a long period of time, and I don't always see the results. It's not a cumulative game. It's a compounding game from the time. It's like, we were talking about this earlier, it's like bamboo, right? Bamboo grows in the ground for years and years and years, and then in a few days gets as tall as a building.
That's right.
Right? That's kind of the idea behind the game of baseball, the compounding effect of the time in. But that doesn't happen when you're not just invested in the moment. You're not kind of locked in for each rep. The reason I was talking about this, we were going through our warm-up, and the kids were being lazy. Like in their warm-up, they were just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Like anyone can just walk out here and do that. Are you actually going to be intentful to the rep? Are you going to snap your foot down like when you go through this march, so that you're working on building a motor, right? And if you just microcosm that, right? You microcosm that one thing.
Yeah.
And that standard isn't set, and it's allowed to continue, you go from great to something less than that. And I think that was in my mind, like, I have always had somebody asked me this the other day, what do you get out of being an agent? What was, like, why did you choose that? What was the joy in that? I always wanted to be the best. That was always my thing. I was valedictorian in my high school class. I was the SEC Player of the Year. Until I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what next? How am I going to go be the best at something else? And then somewhere along the way, that changed for me, and it was, how do I help somebody else be that?
Boom.
Right? It's no longer about me. That was probably just too self-absorbed. I was,
That's right.
But somewhere along the way, that changed to say, I can help others fulfill who they are. And that brings me joy.
I heard the other day from Live Out Loud Brooke, from the stage. It wasn't the other day. It's been a while, but she said, when you make your impact is when you take your God-given abilities and apply it to the marketplace. Right. And I was just like,
that needs one of those little things that you do right there.
That's right. It's all, and same thing Rory Vaden says all the time. He says, you're most uniquely qualified and powerfully positioned to serve the person that you used to be. Right. And you're serving the athlete that needs development, that needs the next financial decision, help being made for them, that needs the next deal negotiated, all those things. And you're doing that same thing for younger kids. You're giving them all the tools and things that you didn't have that you now know that you're able to pretty much give to the organization.
Then that's, twofold. One, I like to look at successful people, right? Because success leaves clues. And like, you take what separated Nick Saban, or what separated Tom Brady, what separated Michael Jordan? We were talking about the brand and the shoes and how we both love to wear Jordans, because you mentioned this when we were chatting. Well, Jordan means winning.
That's right.
Right? But you look at, like, Nick Saban's standard, the consistency of process.
Yes.
No knock on the coach that's there now. But when they were losing the other night, I don't know his name, and I remember his number, started acting out at the end of the game when they were losing. That would have never happened.
Right.
Like, that behavior would have never been condoned.
Correct.
Right? And it was just somebody that was reacting out of frustration and emotion, but the point of that was the consistency of those behaviors, or if those things creep in too much, or that stuff, well, then you start to lose your edge.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's fascinating to me how someone can be so good for so long without a slip. You look at the Roger Federers of the world. Like, how in the world did he, Michael, how did they have that much success for that long? Because we all know how hard it is to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And the series of consistency in those choices. And so anyway, it's just, but I was thinking about that. Right. And I was thinking about the evolution of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the game is not, it's going to forever be the same game. But the way that people play it is a hair different, right? They're evolving, they're more, and so Kai, one of my sons, the other day, he asked me, he said, "Hey," he calls me Splinter. He loved the Ninja Turtles when he was a kid, and he still calls me that, and I've never changed,
cool.
And so he said, "Splinter, do you think I'll be better than you?" That was the question, and I probably paused for a second before I answered because I want to make sure that what I'm saying is it has meaning, or it speaks to him. My prayer for my children is not necessarily that they get what they want, but they get what they need. And that moment in time, that whatever they're being fed speaks to them, feeds them appropriately, right? But I said to him, "Son, you'll be way better than me if." And I couched it with, if you don't ever lose the belief that you can, and you make the choices, you pay your price, which is probably higher than you think it needs to be.
Right.
Right. But you're willing to pay your price, whatever that is. I said, because, son, like when I was your age, I didn't even have a pitching machine to hit off of. And you and I can go and design any pitcher in the world, and you can face him, and you're 14 years old.
Yep.
The other day, he's hitting, I put Jacob deGrom up, and he's hitting 100-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Incredible.
And it's like, you think about that, like in the age that they are and what they're able to kind of get access to. It's like you and I have talked about before. It's like, even this, who are we speaking to right now in some country far away that's hearing a word that we would have never been exposed to when we were growing up?
That's right.
We didn't have the access and the touch right now you can find the best hitting guy in the world at the touch of a button.
Yep.
And I remember when I was in the minor leagues, the internet was first a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find somebody to help me improve my bat speed.
Yep.
Yep.
And
now so I think the game is evolving that way, the ability and but because of that, right, the price is higher.